This hour is 22. This is more coordination this time. There we go. Okay.
Why?
Those hands up. There we go. Office hour 22. Okay. Excited to be here. A couple wonderful people in the room. Do this every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Jam, talk, have fun, insights, everything. Today is a rainy day in Toronto, but that does not hold us back. 𝗕𝗏𝗨 is shining in his wonderful, it looks like he's in Hawaii, but it's...
I was going to say that.
It's a little rainy, but that will not hold us back. The energy is here. Toronto is alive, and it's a very exciting time. So I guess quickly, just a round of introductions, and then we'll hop into a couple of topics. I'll just keep this engine rolling. Tyler Bryden, what do I love? I love voice, I love language, I love hip-hop. I saw a cypher last night in Toronto. Hip-hop cypher was awesome. Burning Man. And technology and love. So that's Tyler. Excited to be here again. Go ahead, whoever wants to introduce themselves.
Okay. Hello, everyone. 𝗕𝗏𝗁 𝗨𝗪 𝗙𝗿 I'm mostly working on the voice AI and machine learning stuff, part of the AWS Builder community, and also involved with other voice technology in Toronto. And always love to explore new things.
Beautiful.
Everyone, 𝗕𝗏𝗨, digital strategist here at 𝗕𝗏𝗃𝗍. Do everything from marketing, SEO, writing, help with copy when I can, and yeah, just trying to brighten up this day with my bright shirt.
All right, Leon here. I'm a product management consultant. Do a bit of UX work as well, and basically helping the ship tighten up its leaky buckets, so the funnel that we're looking at, and hopefully achieve growth, real growth by the end of the year.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And you've helped us wonderfully. 𝗕𝗏𝗨 also helped wonderfully, and there'll be a couple topics on that today. One thing, this is sort of a feeling that I had this week, but then also a question for primarily maybe directed towards Leon, but just something to think about. So we had several inbound leads come together this week. Some of them really good. Some of them came through alternatives pages, pretty large, growing businesses, opportunities of like scales of hours and minutes coming into our system like we haven't seen before, which is really exciting. And that's when I did multiple calls this week where I had this feeling of, oh my God, this is this very sort of complex use case that's emerging, and our system fits what they're looking for almost perfectly. There's like some very, very slight customizations, but almost nothing. And, you know, in my heart, my stomach and my soul, I felt was like, that's like this idea of like product market fit, or at least like it felt right. And that has actually led to, you know, at least a pilot that's going to emerge here. But then, you know, have another sort of multiple sort of versions of that. But my only question, I guess, is how that product market fit that was felt within our system is different than, I would say, a product market fit that we've seen in another market. So is there product market fit if there's multiple markets, or can a product fit multiple markets at once, is what I'm basically wanting to figure out. And even 𝗕𝗏𝗨 just add a little bit more context. We're like talking about what kind of content do we want to create over the next 3-6 months towards the end of the year. And I sort of picked this very specific use case more around marketing and media because of the amounts of minutes and the power and possibilities for return on investment. Yet some of these people who are gravitated towards us are not in that category. So I'm in a whirlwind of maybe not product market fit or whatever that feeling is. Would just love maybe your thoughts on that as someone who's talked about this a bit.
Tyler, could you give me more context around what's the previous market in your mind? How do we have this inkling of PMF, and then what's the current, how do you slice the current market that you're talking about?
So I think we've seen traction and growth from like healthcare. This is a subsect of a healthcare market that came to us. It's processing large amounts of audio and video data through clinics and capturing audio and video, pulling it into the system, transcribing it, and then structuring it into some sort of medical documentation. That's about as far as I can sort of disclose. And we've seen that with awesome partnership with MindCure here, which has been amazing, by the way, to see, like they've been doing demos lately to show how Speak is embedded into the system and it's used in a healthcare clinical environment. But then as we've, you know, thanks to your wonderful also support and direction, it's like, Tyler, pick and focus And so in my mind, I'm like, media and marketing is something that we know. There's a lot of power in our system. We've already built some of the analytics layers, the customization layers. And so it's like some of the focus is driving that way, the accessibility, all those parts. Yet we're getting inbound leads coming from this healthcare sector. So I don't know if that's enough context, or if there's anything you want to add.
I would add, because what the last part we see, I mean, last few weeks, the leads are coming from sort of a subset of, I would say, the market of who has like the large audio and video already sitting in their drive, or they are doing the interviews. So if you put the third layer as like common pattern, I see is like who has the large media of audio and video files, and they're now tired with just the transcription service, could be the order or the rev, and they want to go beyond that. By looking at this, the pandemic, that shift the mindset to going with this audio and video perspective, but now it's not more about it's not just the transcription, it's more on top of that, the analysis. That's what I just can add.
Confuse you, Leon. So
I was about to ask some more questions, but let me just think through this for a second. Previously was more healthcare related, but currently we have more marketing and media related.
Both?
Oh,
other way around.
Yeah.
But we did mention 𝗏𝗀𝗄𝗏 for a second. So I would say that of the startups, I guess, that I've been, the startup stories and founder stories of, crossing chasms and going from solution problem fit to product market fit, all the things I've learned and observed and read about and heard about. People run a whole bunch of experiments, do a bunch of prototypes, and then try things at large. And so we have a wide selection of prototypes from which we can pick and offer people. So there's at least 5 value propositions we can come up with distinctively, and we can go basically market the shit out of them, excuse my French, on all of these 5 value propositions. And that's just sort of a general ballpark in my mind. And so, I guess some definitions of PMF or product market fit can be around market pull is so strong that your supply doesn't keep up. Demand is way stronger than supply. And you're now hiring, and you're now trying to fundraise because you need to hire people, and you're scrambling with operations. You're like, I wish I had a freaking COO next to me right now, because it's just, there's so much demand. That's one way of demonstrating PMF. And then the other way is kind of like if your current customers lost your service, up to 40%, 4 out of 10 of them would feel really terrible or sad about it. I think that's like a A16Z version of product market fit. So what we've seen in the past, I think, are pilot projects. They fortunately are revenue generating, and they're also exciting because it's probably in the space that we're looking into getting. But for instance, if I'm allowed to talk about this, and please edit it out if I am not allowed to talk about this, if our, Tyler, didn't hear you because you're on mute.
There's no editing, so be careful.
Okay. All right. So the integration that we have with 𝗏𝗀𝗄𝗏 is a specific prototype that we've made, and even for them, it's sort of an experiment to see how well the systems will support each other, right? And is that scalable? We don't really know. And so I don't know if we can try to scale it and double down on some marketing efforts on that end, but that would pull us away from sort of the general B2C and or B2 small business level type of marketing strategies. So would we consider that a solution to the right problem, and that will be a scalable solution? I don't know. We'll have to try and see. And with previous marketing professionals or agencies or marketing individuals as a market, sure. Do they have a lot of other choices? Maybe, maybe not. What is it that we are able to do that nobody else can do? What makes our product really defensible? It could be pricing, it could be user experience, it could be a unique technology that no one else has. If it's just like, let's just say I'm a marketing agency. I come to speak as a one solution, and I'm just looking for something that's cheaper. Then that's not product market fit, right? It's just, I'm just testing different, tools, and any of those reasons could make me bounce or switch over to someone else. So it's a very loose, very vague line, or moat of protections. Imagine you have a castle and you have a moat around the castle, which is filled with water. A moat of protection is kind of what keeps your product sticky and strong. With the current transition into more healthcare, I think if they value, for example, our data privacy, or our ability to transcribe and analyze, as Vatsil said, a whole bunch of stuff, and and when it comes down to the aggregate cost, accumulated cost, it's much cheaper or much more calculatable, or is that even a word, or more digestible, so they can do their, let's say, budgeting easier. I think those are all advantages. So we need to find out what the commonalities between all of these leads or inbound leads are, and or outbound leads. I'm not sure what the marketing front is doing, but there's a lot of interesting things happening. We just need to find out what the commonalities are and what they really value among these things. Then we form a hypothesis, is that like this particular feature or this particular proposition is interesting for such companies. And then we can go and hunt for more companies and be more of an active or outbound approach to them. It's all experimentation at the end of the day. And we set a time frame, we set a hypothesis, and then we go validate the crap out of it. So hope that helped.
Yeah, but I just have one more question on top of that. For an example, when the company approach, or when these organizations approach to this leads, there is very few things to work upon. Obviously, based on their problem, there is not the whole sort of, it's like 1 month or 3 month sprint we need to work on to fit with that solution. So does that count in the product market fit? For an example, just to add it with the asterisk sign there with the 𝗕𝗫, we didn't create anything on top of that. The whole solutions was we built in 2 years, exactly fit with their needs. Could be with the clinic recordings or with the text notes. So the whole solution would fit. We didn't write, we did some custom work on top of that, which is different story, but nothing crazy. So does that count in the product market fit, or how is that balanced?
That's a fantastic question, Vatsil. I don't know if I can answer it in just a matter of a few minutes, but what you mentioned there with the integration with 𝗕𝗫 is a great example of a solution to problem fit. And if they become a long-term client, hopefully forever, and can introduce us to more clients, and also we can find more clients as such, then that's probably a signal of product market fit. And then going back to 1 to 3 sprints or customization, or building more features just to satisfy one use case, would be kind of chasing fireworks everywhere. And they're lighting up in the middle of the sky, and then we're like, oh my God, there's something happening here. So let's try it. And then what ends up happening is that maybe we can, fork the code and create some prototype for them. That would be considered a pilot project and not a product market fit, because we as a team need to define what the product is. And then we have to be very, very clear about what our product does. And then we defend it to a point where we realize that actually all of our assumptions were false. None of this works. Then we can look for more signals. But if we have a foundation and we add on things to it, actually scratch that. I have one example I want to use. Product managers are known to use analogies. I'm going to use a restaurant analogy. It's very, very simple. So if you're a buffet that offers Thai food, Chinese food, Japanese food, Korean food, do you think anybody would really value you as a all-encompassing buffet? Or if you just said, we're going to build the best damn Thai food restaurant in the city, and people who are looking for Thai food, they would rank their Thai food restaurants, and eventually they find out, they're like, I want to try this out. I think this is great. I'm willing to pay a premium. And so, and then there's the case that we're sort of discussing now is that we've built a restaurant. We have a entrance and we have seating. We have a kitchen in the back. We have great chefs and cooks. And then people come in, they're like, I want spring rolls. And then the next customer comes in, they're like, make me a smoothie. And another customer comes in, they're like, you know, could you also do some Italian tonight? Or just like, hey, head chef, like recreate the menu right now. Like there's a customer who's willing to pay us for Italian, but we've never done it before. We're going to go buy some pasta and pasta sauce next door and build it. So that's kind of what it feels like when you're chasing fireworks like that.
Sounds like fun, but that was a great analogy, by the way.
Been saying it.
Yeah, that was a fantastic. That was hilarious. Neil, you're quiet. What are your thoughts on this? Considering again, you're you've done a lot of the work from the marketing perspective, trimmed down a lot. Constantly the person who says, "Stop it, guys."
Say less, do less. Yeah. To speak to Leon's point, I think about us forming a hypothesis and kind of standing behind our product. So for instance, Tyler, we had that conversation yesterday behind, okay, let's pick a focus for the next 3 to 6 months where we just go hard after this hypothesis of this is what we think our target market should be, and here's how we're going to educate them about why we are the best solution for them. And just running with that for 3 to 6 months, even if obviously we have some room for slight deviation depending on what comes up. But to that point, right, let's say we picked one main group, so, to which we dedicate 80 to 85% of our time. And there's maybe 2 subgroups where we think there's opportunity there, but it hasn't been demonstrated yet. Like maybe we've had inklings, right? Like someone left a comment in the onboarding form, like, hey, this is what I'm using it for. So we're like, okay, maybe 7.5% of our efforts go towards building out this channel for this group, and another 7.5 goes to building out a channel for this other group. But the bulk of our efforts are just going to go towards, in this particular case, people who have bulk transcription needs, as an example. Right. And, from there, that's the hypothesis. This is who we're most useful for. Who are these people? How do we build out information and education that helps them find us? And also helps, shows them that we can solve their problem. So on that front, I think it's interesting to see how like PMF really feeds into marketing efforts as well, because in a way, it feeds into the topic that I wrote for us to talk about is how do you market a complex product, and what does that entail, right? Do you market all your features? Do you market the ones that are perfect, as perfect as like features can be? And what are some examples of companies right now that do offer complex products, that have complex products that are maybe not consumer facing, right? Could be, companies like Monkey-Learn, where the base plan is $300 a month, right? Because they're not going after the average consumer that needs to do text analysis, but because the average consumer probably wouldn't understand how to use their API anyways. But it's like, how have they made it work for them? But even in their case, when you look at it, they've built out 3, like on their website, for instance, there's only 3 personas they really target. There's like customer success, I think product research, and like one more, right? And that's all they go after. But they go after it hard. So, we looked up like one of the keywords that we want to rank for, right? Like sentiment analysis, has like 30,000 searches a month, and they're number 1, right? Because they're like, okay, we're going to be the master of this domain, and no one's going to like unseat us from our throne, right? And I feel like that's kind of the mindset we need to go in with as well.
We're coming for you, Monkey-Learn. No.
Best Thai food restaurant in town.
Best Thai food, exactly.
A complex product, and Vatsil and I had that experience today. Like I've had multiple conversations with the one business that we're gonna do some work with here, and when it came down to the demo, today, or the onboarding that we onboarded the person, it was only 5 minutes because we only knew like the 4 things that they cared about. So like we could have spent an hour going through Speak, just if present mode was still in there, we'd be like, this is so cool. But it's like none of that was necessary, like literally none of it. So some of the research that I've done is from a sales perspective is like, yeah, your platform can do a lot, but by the time that you even get to a demo, you should know exactly what they're looking for, and you shouldn't show them anything else. Why would you? You've diluted the entire piece of the platform. And like, even while I was going through that demo today, I was also just like, half of the stuff in this system, this person does not need. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like they're only going to be doing maybe 3 navigation points throughout the application, like barely any compared to the full.
But what things do you see which are not useful in the app? And with that objective is like, what other things you can highlight?
You know what I mean? Video and text, for example. Like, this is audio only experience that this person is using. That's really the main one. They're not going to be recording in the app. They're only going to be using the embeddable recorder. Like and I don't know what to do about that. I mean, again, there's lots of, I use Google Analytics every day, and ನೇಹal and I were talking about it, about like when you get used to platforms with so many options, and then you just figure out the paths that are most valuable to you. Like, I could spread all Google Analytics, but I go to acquisition, source medium, referrals, and then I go to goals. You know what I mean? Like, I don't spend all the time in other places. So, I guess that's just an insight that, like, it felt one of our more successful of qualifying a person, understanding needs, and then showing only what we needed to show instead of this broad, generalized walkthrough of everything that we can do.
I'm not agree with that, because what happened, I personally see with the other clients, with the large clients, we already onboard them, because they see the text module, they realize that, oh, I have like hundreds of research Word documents sitting on my drive and helping me nothing. So it's like, can I upload my text node and connect my current research with the past research I did 5 years ago? So, I mean, we are opening those opportunities for the people who had no idea that they also can analyze this notes which they had wrote in their research 5 years ago, and that just changed their whole business, maybe if they are coming from the B2B, or maybe their research. So I see as an opportunity as an user to see that, okay, there are other options which you can use within the app, if it is related to obviously with the research and with the analysis. But if it is the whole separate story, then that doesn't make sense. But audio, video, and text is like, that's the core piece we always talk about, is a capturing. It's like sort of a combinations, that's power of the Speak. Otherwise, that's the questions we always ask, is like, what value we provide to the users. So compared to others.
Difference quickly though, like between the problem that they needed to solve and then the opportunities that we can present to them once they solve that problem. Like, if we spent 15 minutes today talking about text notes, it would cool. There's lots of potential here, but that's not the problem they're looking to solve immediately with it.
Yes.
There. So it's more presenting opportunities of the avenues that Speak opens up. But if we're truly want to be successful and convert, it's like painkiller first. Solve pain, kill that, and then now, oh, here's this wonderful world of opportunities that can solve more problems for you.
Because I think feeding off of that, because I do think, when you look at it, it's almost like if we treat each separate, like there's ways to integrate the different solutions we offer. But at its core, they live as standalone services, right? Upload audio, upload video, create a text note. And then from there, there's ways to create tailored workflows that work for specific use cases, right? So when it comes to selling that, for instance, does it become a matter of, okay, so now let's say we've gotten 5 research clients, or 5 clients from like that research space. Is it we go in with, they just want to bulk transcribe audio files. And okay, so we go in with, we're going to solve this for you, right? Here's the workflow in 10 minutes. And this is how you're going to transcribe your 3,000 hours of audio. And then from there, does it become a matter of we build out, like from our experience, from our research, from kind of how we see someone using the platform to solve their problems? Do we build out specific workflows that we then market to them? like for instance, with your text example, like, oh, like, we have seen use cases where people like yourself will grab their text files, integrate it with their audio files, kind of create these bulk repositories and then analyze it completely? Or do we let the customers themselves figure out these workflows by using the product, and we educate from either like an in-app perspective or like a content perspective? Do we create opportunities for them to learn, or do we teach them about it right off the bat? I feel like that's another question.
But I think the answer is depends who is the customer.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it is a B2C,
mm-hmm.
then there is a balance of figuring out, okay, content or like helping education. But if it is coming from B2B, if it is a business person, I bet on that he or she is already thinking how they can grow their business. There's no doubt that if the person is coming from B2B, so either they are premature to see how the system can help them more to grow their business, maybe make more money, or whatever they're basically the growth. So it depends who is the customer. If B2C, then yes, the educations through the email marketing or in-app education, which we already just added. So that helps, like, oh, what is this? Is like, then they explore more through the help doc or something. That's that. I think the first thing is like, who is the customer?
So if we are going after both, because obviously at this specific point in time, we have both avenues open, right?
Yes, because we have the individual subscription.
Exactly. So for now, there's almost two separate marketing streams as well, right? Where it's like they have some overlap, but to your point, like the messaging is almost completely different, right? Not completely different, but there's add-ons or things we remove that might not apply to both audiences, right? And just trying to figure out what to say to who and what to leave out, right? Also time, right? Like how much time are we going to spend educating like a B2C customer with a demo, for instance, versus reserving that valuable team time for kind of higher paying customers that kind of need a more thorough demonstration to get what they need done. Because most single users are probably just going to use one function or two functions, or even just based on sheer volume, they probably won't run into too many roadblocks or too many issues. While I feel like with B2B, and if we're getting like a huge transcription orders, there's going to be different issues that pop up there as well.
Why is it different? Why do you think that is different in terms of the context? Let's say how you can use the professional transcription. Mm-hmm. Why is it different? I don't get it, because I get it in terms of the time, but I didn't get it in terms of the context. Because even if it is a B2B, they still have the 5 or 10 people as an individual who are trying to access the platform.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, in terms of context, how does that make it different with your approach? Or maybe / marketing approaches?
Just one thing that stuck up, maybe add some nuance, but I remember, and you're both fans of it, but I remember when Notion first started, it was very marketed to an individual. And I remember even when they started to see really rapid growth from a business perspective, they now when you land on the site, a lot of it is actually tailored towards the business side. And because they've had this dedicated base of users who are individuals, they've stuck with Notion because it's such a great platform. But if you were the first time, somehow you lived under a rock, you came across Notion for the first time, you came on their site, it could isolate you as an individual versus a business based on the content on the site and the messaging there. I don't know if that adds any clarity there, but it's just even for example, if we start talking specifically about marketing in our copy and in our content, and then we say, as Nihal and I are talking, we think there's a great opportunity to work with SEO agencies and marketing agencies with our system to supply accessibility demands, transcription, and then also some competitive intelligence, and et cetera, et cetera. If we keep writing about that and talking about that and then build solutions towards that direction, now we're isolating an entire audience or a subset of groups of users who are in our application, and they might feel like this is no longer for me. This is no longer my application. This is not the business that I thought it was. So maybe that just how you even message to an individual versus a business that's different messaging. And sometimes I think that it's a catch-all and we can do it, but by, bringing Leon on, bringing Nihal on, I've realized how different that messaging it is depending on the exact person that you're talking to.
Because just to feed off that, like, for instance, now when I'm doing some like research on topics, people searching for some opportunities for us to, create useful content for people. Like a funny opportunity, but one that we can definitely capitalize on is, people searching for how to, like, for whatever reason, like transcribe song lyrics, right, from audio files, right? Which silly topic, but has relatively high search volume, low keyword difficulty, and we can provide value for an individual user, right? Even if that's just through our free trial, like they just hop in to use it once. So very different messaging from, here's a business process we've built out, and here's how you can use it to make money, right? Here's how you can use it to gain competitive intelligence. And to me, those are just two, like, the second use case, like for the businesses, could also be used by individuals, right? Like people who have that higher need, that higher level of, I guess, strategic thinking, or are actually looking to learn. But, to Tyler's point, sometimes when it comes to our website messaging, let's say we just scrap at some point, we just scrap the consumer side of things, right? Like we only work with enterprises, we only work with businesses. That's going to make a huge difference as to how we market the product, the language you use. Maybe we don't need to keep things as simple, right? Like we can start talking about some of the more technical terms. We can talk about more complex workflows, versus for now, we still need to find a balance between producing content for individual users who can just adopt the system and then potentially take it to their team. But then maybe, if it ends up being more along the lines of PMF, and it's just more lucrative for us to, let's say, just purely focus on enterprise solutions, that it's going to change what we talk about, right? It's no longer going to be like transcribe and analyze all in one place. It's going to be like gain the business intelligence you need to grow your business, right? Like whatever that is.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
The one little point I want to add to it is just around Notion. Their product, well, their whole product was, I think, built around 2015, 2016. They almost died before they crossed the chasm. And maybe the first 5,000 to 10,000 onboarded users were all individuals trying to like do some daily tasks and planning and whatnot. But they eventually found product market fit. This was solving the individual's solutions, but it was a free product, a freemium product. And to this day, they still have the freemium option, which led to product-led growth, because it was like, hey, have you heard of this thing? Like, this is like helping me save an hour per day. It's great. And then sign up, boom, boom. Teams, same thing. Individual designers, engineers, product managers, they started to use this for their own lives because they like to hack things. And they bring it back to the team. They're like, I think y'all should try this. So product-led growth kind of existed from day one. They just wasn't able to unlock it, I guess. I'm speaking from a completely outside perspective, so I don't really know how it worked. However, now they're venture-backed. They didn't even need to raise money, but they raised quite a bit from some of the top VCs in the Valley. And so they need to prove sustainable, but also exponential growth with their product. And think they have to go with the, I think, enterprise or tech team onboarding route, just like Figma, and get a bunch of teams using it as soon as possible. Like get teams away from Asana, get teams away from Basecamp, and so on. Yeah, so it's a progression and led to that decision over time, I think.
Yep, I absolutely agree, because I went to the first Notion meetup in Toronto before the pandemic, and that was sort of the same discussion. There were like 5 sort of a team people presenting why they're using Notion, and they were coming from the same sentiment about, as an individual, they started the Notion, and because they are PM or some senior executive in the different companies, they try to integrate in their day-to-day in the company. It could be the FAQ or maybe the onboarding process. So it's sort of that makes sense. That is sort of a bridge to go over from, again, like B2C to the B2B. And that's where they find the more requests. I absolutely remember those conversations in that meetup.
Shows you how much again, taking venture capital, or depending on the business model you want, changes the business too, right? And it's, in a lovely world you can serve, like Nihal was talking about, like certain customers being more lucrative, but like, it's because we love everyone. And I wish in my ideal world I just could help everyone, every single person I cross on the street. I wish I could, but I realize it's impossible. And then you try to help everyone, you don't help yourself. And so you do have to make these sort of these choices here. So Neil, is there anything else you wanted to add? We sort of started on complex product. Anything else that you want to add, or how are you feeling?
Nothing specific. I mean, good conversation stemmed from that. I think to your point also about like kind of the issue, not issue, but going from like B to C to B, or potentially changing our messaging, because I think we've had certain conversations recently about when it comes to just trying to go the market domination route by just undercutting everyone. Like we're not in a position to do that. And how does that affect who we go after, and like how we actually find clientele, find clients, and create content? Because right now, like Otter, for instance, gives away on a free plan, what was it, 600 minutes?
Yeah.
So 600 minutes, right? Which for them, with their giant pockets, is a cost they're willing to eat, to kind of just get their product into different people's phones and into their workflows. But for us, we can't compete on that front. We can't compete on the rev front, for instance, when it comes to undercut, like paying their transcribers like shit. Sorry, Rev. And then but then what ends up happening, I find, is, so if we can't compete with these big players by kind of using the same tactics they use, what are the tactics and what are the routes we go through, right? Is it exceptional customer support? Is it we build customers that, not build customers, but build relationships with our customers where they're like, I could go to Otter, right? I could go to Otter and pay, I don't know, like 10 cents less, but you guys give me so much more within your system, and everything that encompasses the company as a whole, that it's not worth the switch just to save a couple bucks, right?
I think what you've solved it all is just build customers.
Yeah, just build them from scratch.
You should attend one of the meeting we had yesterday related to the same. We talk about like the person was like pro Otter user, and they come from the Otter having the issues. It is not about then if it is a B2C, then the price comes into the picture. But if it is a B2B, they try to again like solve the problem and grow the business. It's like if it is a $500 more, if as a business person, they are more than happy to pay. But when you think as an individual, then there is a problem. And Tyler and I also discussed about 2 days back, I think so. It's like how we can reduce the price is like significantly, maybe 60-80% to the current cost. And how we can not compete with Otter or Rev. They have both have the different sort of a perspective of the speech to text versus the human transcription, and we have the combination of both. And if we can compete with them with having the combination of both, that would be the game changing. I don't know what you guys think.
Just even, I mean, today with the one conversation, right? We had, if you look at us on a permanent basis against, some of the companies there, we're actually much higher. But that didn't matter to the customer that we talked to today, because we solve so many other problems. Like even something as simple as right now, there's no way that it integrates with X. So my multiple team members that I'm paying per hour are spent doing thousands of manual clicks. And now you've helped me solve that problem. That's worth way more than a couple cents per minute in terms of frustration and what I'm paying, and arthritis in your hands, all those things. So when it comes to, as Vatsu said, like the right case, a couple cents per minute doesn't matter. It's so many other things are actually solved that it was very quick and easy. And it was, again, a good feeling of being able to outmuscle 50, companies raising 50 million plus with a little nimble team here. And you know what the other reason, part of the reason was, who says, you're the only people who even jumped on a call with me. You're the only team that just even made a little bit of time to sit down and say, hey, how can we help solve this with you? And like, that was a huge differentiator there. And again, maybe you can't do that with everyone forever, but it shows that if you care and you're actually excited about solving problems with people, that people will want to work with you.
Yeah, but that sort of, if all of us, we have in the root starting the business, if we hire more people, that's going to be passed on, right? So it is not going to be beyond with them. If that's a whole customer success team, they are also not going to be feel like, yeah, I don't want to talk with you. That's going from here. So that definitely helps. I had another point, but I just I'll come back.
It's been a long. Okay, so that brings Leon. You're here. We are glad to have you here. One of the things that, and this is, I think, very interesting, and I, based on this onboarding process that we've gone through, I mean, I've learned so much. Onboarding looks great. Thank you again for the contribution there.
Yeah, really appreciate that. Yeah,
amazing. It really is. Like, but this idea, I guess, one of the topics you want to talk about, and I'll let you elaborate on this, is this idea of like, UI versus UX, and as now seeing the process that we went through with this, I am wanting to re-engineer the entire way we attack every single problem within the company, thanks to you. So maybe just some clarity, both for us, but anyone who actually watches or listens or reads this about the difference between UI and UX and why that's so important.
Sounds good. Glad I'm not preaching to the choir, because typically UX or just human-centered design is undervalued in most businesses. But what they realize is that, here's the context, right? Like we're in a world where any engineer can build anything. With given enough time and money, or in large enough teams, anything is possible. But it comes down to like why your business is better than someone else's business. And in this world of digital channels, so imagine a street, traditional sense, and you walk by a storefront. They have shoes, and the next store also has shoes, and the third store also has shoes. And you're like, okay, wonder which one I go into. And then you have to go on like some reviews, or if you don't know, back in the days, there's no Google Maps or Yelp. You kind of just have to go and try and see who has a bigger smile on their face, who has a bigger selection, and so on. But at the end of the day, it's the customer service. And in a digital world, that customer service turns into basically how the product functions. It's that user experience. So when we talk about like competitiveness, companies started to realize that, hey, if we don't dominate the customer service, the customer experience, which gets distilled to UX in some format, then we're losing to our competitors because they're investing heavily. And there's numerous reports I can bring up by Forrester or McKinsey or any like large consulting company or analytics company or market research company that can demonstrate the ROI of design in a longer term, right? In a longer term, you'll see that companies who prioritize customer experience, and I'm talking like Amazon, Shopify, that win and dominate a whole industry, they've invested into design from day one. And design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is kind of like the entire experience from end to end. So best example kind of is Apple. When you think about Apple, the whole journey of buying an Apple product is just so seamless. Unfortunately, they've hired like some of the best designers in the world to create that experience. And that's what makes them the most valuable company by market cap, at least publicly listed companies. So design becomes the DNA of the company, becomes the backbone of all of your services and offerings. It's about critically thinking about where people and humans could fail, could make a mistake, and then capturing it before they actually reach that point. But it's a very, very heavy investment. It's not good for startups, which is why most startups don't have a great design or great design system or great user experience up front. Even Airbnb, 2 out of 3 founders were designers. They were trained as designers. They had very crappy sort of iterative experimental beginnings, right? They're running really shitty landing pages as MVPs just to see if anyone was willing to use their product. But eventually they've built one of the best design teams in the world. So context aside, like UX and UI, well, just in short, if you were going to take away anything from this small spiel, UI is what things look like and feel like. That's it. It's everything that you see that you can interact with. Don't think digital interfaces now, think cars, right? UI is like, is whatever's on your dashboard, how these dials work, how big are the dials, and what color is your sort of LED displays, right? And like, think Tesla now kind of like made the car almost dashboard less. It's just a big iPad. But yeah, like UI is everything that the user interacts with. UX, on the other hand, is how systems work. So it is actually much closer to how engineering should tackle certain pieces or should be building features and experiences. UX is about how people perceive this thing. Like if I step into a car, do I know where to, ignite the engine? Do I intuitively know how to move the seat back and forth? Do I know how to raise the seat? Do I know how to, change the mirrors angles? Those are the user experience side of things. And the physical buttons that allow you to change the mirror angles is the UI. And so if it's not intuitive, then it's done, right? It's game over, especially in a digital platform with a lot of competitors in a generally speaking, pretty crowded marketplace that we're in. That's where voice technology also comes in as well, like not pertaining what we're building in the voice space, but cars are now increasingly being operated or have a voice assistant involved. And so that changes dramatically what the user interface is. And so when voice designers think about design, they're like, well, like every question and answer, basically every request and response is just the UI, because that's literally a linear approach. But when they think about UX, it's like, what's the intent of asking this question? Will a user want to order coffee on their way to work in the mornings? And so how will you enhance that experience? UX, again, is the how the product works, how the system functions. And it has to be accessible, obviously. There's accessibility standards. Has to be better than your competition, hopefully. And it has to make sense. So back in the days when people were building chairs and like designing real physical products, UX was kind of just ergonomics. It was literally human factors engineering, right? That's an actual discipline you can study in a master's degree and PhD. Human factors engineering, psychology, and ergonomics consist of UX. And UI is, again, it's interface design, interaction design, a little bit of that, and visual design, giving you cues back and forth based on your input and output. So does that make sense, or did I just go too far?
Oh, this is wonderful.
Analogies are strong today, Leon.
Trying.
No, thank you for sharing. And I think everyone just sat back and listened to that and took it in. So
I'm happy to elaborate, offline as well. Anyone that has any questions around this.
Have one follow-up question.
Sorry?
Have one follow-up questions with that.
One follow-up question? Sure, go ahead.
If you need to say only 3 points about the difference between B2B and B2C UX, how do you put that way? Because it's like B2B UX and B2C UX. It's like, what are the 3 highlighted points you see as a difference?
Yeah. So you said one question from you, but 3 things I had to highlight, right?
That's a one question, but has 3.
3 things I got to yeah, okay. Interesting challenge. I can riff off of 𝗕𝗏𝗏's what's a complex system and what's a complex product. Look, really complex systems like AWS, like Salesforce, they require specialized humans to help you configure and build things, right? You have to learn, go to academy. that would be like the extreme level of B2B or enterprise UX. They're not meant to make your everyday user happy. They're meant to perform a very specific business function. And right. And if you're building something so complex that you might as well take the human aspect out of it, then you have an API. It's just like our machine works with the machine. Forget about humans. It's just not like, you don't need to use levers or dials or buttons to operate the system. On a B2C level, it's as simple and as easy as possible, as accessible as possible. That's it. That's one thing. The other thing is B2C UX sometimes can be very, I would say, sometimes can be very curated. So the workflow and the user flow is curated because you have a contract of $500,000 and you build a product for them, right? And then you may have another contract for $250,000 and you kind of iterate or you tweak your little product here and then service that client. So then you kind of become more of a customization, modular customization process. Then you send out like sales consultants and sales engineers and whatnot to be on site. I think one great company, I wouldn't say it's a product, it's SAP. SAP just like they can do anything for you. You just have to request it, but it'll cost you like $5 million per month. They'll do it for you. They have teams and teams of people. So that's like enterprise UX as well. It's customized. Right. B2C, think Spotify, think even tools like my MacBook, for example, B2C product. It needs to be intuitive and easy. And there are pro users, but this is like a very hands-on, accessible thing. So expect different use cases and different user flows with B2C products because everyone has their own way of using it. Think Instagram. It's just like you can't get lost in the system. It's just so easy. And it's often the hardest product to build because you have to account for a variety of use cases. In enterprise, it's kind of like sales-led sort of, and you can define the requirements, write them down. You're like, okay, we built it for you, sign the contract. Yeah, those are the things that that comes to mind. I'm sure I have more examples, but hopefully those help you differentiate.
Yep, these are good because the language change also in the application. Let's say if you talk about Speak, the whole language change, right? AWS has the revenue of $380 billion plus. And if you check AWS, I use every day. Also, I check the Azure or the Google Cloud. They're like simple tables, right? They try to fulfill your purpose as quickly as possible on the technical side, or not even non-technical persons, because they have other service who non-technical people also can manage it. So that sort of a balance, if we compare with the Speak, is like, okay, where does that fit the fundamental of the UX? Because that change a lot of things in terms of the experience. Even when we talk about the numbers or the statistics, that change a lot, because with the enterprise, that you got, let's say, $5 million project, and you don't worry about the drop off, because for just example, with the UX perspective, because that you got a deal, you just try to make sure that goes well, the whole implementation or the relationship. But when it go to the B2C, then the whole equations are changed. Then I agree with the Nihal point about the marketing, but then here it's also the ENAP, the whole language is changed too. It's like not talk about chat with us, it's going to be talk with the representative. It's like talk with, because that's enterprise language. It's like talk with the representative, which is like sort of creating a relationship with that business. Instead of with the B2C, it's like, hey, talk with whatever, for example, us or Tyler or Nihal, or like something like so.
Yeah, at a B2B level, you're competing, you're not competing as much. You competed on solving a business problem, and therefore you develop a service or product for them.
Right.
On a B2C level, you're competing against attention, people's happiness, time sensitivity, like, and just like
even time you spend on the application.
Yeah, 10 million users are gonna have 10 different use cases. So it's very difficult actually.
Also say just like cost sensitivity or acclimatation to free information when you're dealing with direct to people. Okay, we are at time here. I want give me 1 second. I just want to talk about this quickly, which is like last night I said at the start of it, but I went for a rollerblade and I went down to the Toronto water, and first of all, I saw like 50 people with lights on their bike rolling around like it was Burning Man. It was awesome. You know, walk over a couple more meters and I see like 40 people doing freestyle raps. And for me, you know, that's like a signal that, you know, this pandemic is coming to an end. And even when starting Speak and developing Speak, it started with, a very different thing in mind, a whole different world in mind. And one of it was I was constantly in meetings. I wanted to have a literally native phone application that could then grab a recording while I sat in that meeting, process that information and analyze it and store it. And then so much behavior and so many things have changed throughout this pandemic. And one of them was people weren't even used to recording things. And then all of a sudden everyone's on virtual calls and recording is a click away on something like Zoom. And, I guess what I'm just trying to understand, or just quickly, and I know I don't want to drag this out too long, but it's just like your perspective on post-pandemic and how that impacts Speak. And I just thought, like, one of the ones that's what I've been talking about, we sort of, because of team capacity, maybe not the best prioritization, we missed out on sort of the Zoom integration, Google Meet. There's a lot of companies that took massive advantage of that. We didn't, but there's still, I just want to know, like, what you're thinking. Should we take this into account as we move forward, that people are going to be moving back into meetings in some places, but remote work has ever changed? Just, I guess, any insights, or if we philosophize and look forward into the future, just to end this session here today, your thoughts on how it's going to impact what we're doing here, and if that needs to be taken into account. Oh, no.
Leon, Nihal?
I have... during one of my PM interviews before, there was the first question that came to mind is kind of your sense of where the market is going. And the first question was like, what will happen to Zoom when the pandemic ends? Tell me about your strategy for Zoom. And then you kind of have to measure everything, right? How people behave, it comes back to human behavior, sociology and psychology. So for us, I think similar things apply. What happens when things are less online and more offline? Is that even something previously established as a market for us, or does it not matter for us? Like, are we affected by the pandemic? Have we seen inflows or growth during the pandemic that was a clear transition because the market's changed?
I'll just add one quick thing. I was like, we were actually prioritizing an Android and iOS application before the pandemic, because we're like, if we can get this into the hands of people, they can just drop it on the table and record a meeting or something valuable, analyze it, transcribe it before. And this was like even before Otter, like it was just as Otter maybe first launched and hadn't even picked up any traction yet. And it's like, that was then thrown on the back burner because it was like, no one is going anywhere. No one needs this system right now, or at least in a way that is going to be very helpful for us to grow and generate revenue. So I guess that's all. That's all. I saw you. Come on. Give some thoughts, man. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute. Your eyes are closed and you're on mute now. You're
good. Okay. In my view, it's sort of a hybrid approach, because the reasons are, let's say if I go to, I'm going to play volleyball from last 2 weeks in the evening for hour. And I met at least 6 to 7 different groups. And you see, and when you go, it was before a sort of because of the pandemic, people were uncomfortable, but now you can see people are open and you play very comfortably with them. But anyway, how does it impact to the Speak is like, so this is sort of not the technology, it's about, in my view, it's sort of a user behavior. And it's like on Leon's point, it's like sort of users as a person too, is like, what is our mentality? Are we going out? What are we doing, right? As an individual, and just multiply with the 3 million other, people in Toronto, for an example. So it's sort of going to be the hybrid approach. It's still going to be, the effect stays here. I don't want to quote anyone, but let's say the Pfizer CEO says that based on their statistics, it's still going to take end of 2022 to go everything how it was before in 2019 back to normal in terms of the user behavior. But again, I like the questions you use. Leon said is like, okay, how much are we impacted before the pandemic and after the pandemic, and how we can make the readjustment? Is like how much, let's say we lose the customer just for the speak, or how much it impacted to speak, and how we can recalibrate the whole thing again. So that sort of makes sense. Let's say Android and iOS, it's sort of a one part of the whole process, but let's say if we even add that, how much it adds the value, what is the growth we will see? Okay, let's say if we are going to have the enterprise $10,000, $15,000 contract just for a 1 month, I mean, for 1 year, but per month, $15,000 contract. Okay, then it's affecting as a post-pandemic after. Yeah, so it's sort of still going to be the hybrid approach. The Zoom analogy is still going to be stay here. It's not going that quickly because people are also, as us too, is like we are comfortable, but also we want to meet with others. But it's like maybe 3 days a week, but 2 days you still want to focus and let's just stay home or work from your comfort zone. So
beautiful. Nihal, any thoughts?
Nothing specific to the issue, not the issue, but the transition from like in person to not in person, because I think this also speaks to our positioning and what exactly do we want to educate people about and get people to do. So, going back to our initial thought about what's the type of content or what's the type of approach we're trying to take to things. It's okay. So at this point in time, maybe people don't see transcription as a very vital business function, let's say, but how do we change that perception? Like, are we the people to change that perception? Do we make it a goal to educate people on all the benefits of, for instance, you have a large media library, you're getting, 500,000 clicks a month. Let's say it's a big company, right? Now you transcribe your entire media library and you can double your, how many people you're sending to your site, for instance. And how exactly do we position ourselves to be the ones to teach them about that as well? I think that's how we kind of mitigate any sort of, I guess, post-pandemic fall off. It's more like, how do we make ourselves a critical part of someone's workflow, a critical part of the way someone approaches their marketing, their business practice, and yeah, just pushing ourselves to be because yeah, like at its core, the concept of, okay, transcribe your files, for instance, is simple, right? Upload, get the transcript. But now it's, you have your transcript, now what, right? And how do we build out solutions there as well to make these transcripts more useful? Yeah.
You guys are going to hate me for saying this, but I was watching these guys freestyle last night. They would say, I'm in what is it in the Toronto? I don't even know the area code. Actually, it's not the 226. What is it at Nihal? It's the area code and the phone number. You're looking
905.
905 or
416.
And we're rapping by the CN Tower. I'm in Toronto and I'm just watching these guys freestyle and I'm thinking, oh my God, if we could just live transcribe and project what they're saying out, what joy that would give.
Everyone between our office hours.
So we're done. I shouldn't have said, I tried to hold it in. I was like, Todd, I'd be a good business owner and don't bring up stupid stuff. But, it's good to have dreams too. And awesome to just feel that energy and see that and, move to Toronto in January 2020 and to start to feel these inklings of, the city that, came here to be a part of is very exciting. So
quick thing on Nihal's point. I like that. I mean, we should be able to see more growth because if you see the few past requests and leads, they have now Zoom recordings. It's like now people are asking, what do I do with this thousands of Zoom recording of minutes or thousands of hours of Zoom recording? What I'm going to do now? But there's like critical discussions we had because everything was remote. So I don't know if we might have the one more page on the websites just talks about why do you need to analyze your meeting, sort of a post-pandemic. So that should be there, okay, if you have the Google Meets recording, Zoom meeting recording, how you can do that. So, okay, Tara, we talk about we are late, but we might be the early in the stage of this post-pandemic, reanalyze your thousands of minutes. And okay, I use Otter, I use blah, 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 but now what? Okay, what are you gonna do with this storage? So probably people are looking for more than, they might not aware about that solution, and that might create the, I don't know, whole new market about post-pandemic, reanalyze your meetings. If anyone to make sense, but I see a big opportunity there.
Very good point. I want to just to reinforce that point actually, because previous competitors that have already found product market fit pre-pandemic or during the pandemic, good for them. But they've locked in their customers. And for them to pivot to this new strategy is going to be too big of an opportunity cost, or not immediate in the roadmaps. Us being a nimble team, we have the ability to kind of try that out.
Take it. Okay.
Huge opportunity, guys. Come on, this is in office hours 2022. We'll see in office hours 32 maybe, if how it works, or whatever, 132 sometime. But this could be the game changing, definitely, after the post-pandemic, for just those recording pieces.
Okay. Everyone feel happy, satisfied with today? Good? Okay. Great to see you all. Rainy day, but a beautiful day. Spend some time with you. Anyone who watched, listened, read this, appreciate it very much. Love you all. And hope you have a great rest of your day and weekend.
Goodbye.